I failed our dorms race and the lights went out. They said it was only for a second. They say you have 3 minutes. They're lying. Every college has its stupid rituals, the little traditions passed down in whispers from seniors to freshmen. Ours is called the Echo Run. The dorm I live in, the Trillium, is 3 brutalist concrete towers connected on the 3rd floor by a single, impossibly long hallway. We're talking a 1,500-foot stretch of peeling paint and flickering fluorescent lights. The perfect track for a midnight race. Twice a year, the RAs who are in on it prop open every fire door, creating one long, unbroken corridor from the Alpha Tower to the Gamma Tower. The rules are simple. You run in total silence. You do it after the last RA patrol, when the only thing awake is the hum of the ice machines. And you have to beat the timer. The lights in that hallway click off automatically after 3 minutes, plunging the entire floor into absolute, suffocating blackness. Oh, and there's the drink. Before you start, you have to chug 15 ounces of a warm, foul cocktail. The seniors call Styx water. It's a sludgy mix of whatever cheap liquor they can get their hands on, and it hits you like a fist to the gut. That's the game. But every game has its ghost story. The legend of the Echo Run is that if the lights go out before you cross the finish line, you don't come back. Ever. Of course, I thought it was bullshit. I was a sophomore, full of cheap beer and arrogance, and the only thing I cared about was beating Casimir. He'd won the last run, and I hadn't heard the end of it for 6 months. This time, I was going to wipe that smug grin off his face. I remember the feel of the cheap plastic cup in my hand, the syrupy burn of the Styx water sliding down my throat. My vision swam for a second. Someone clicked a stopwatch, and we were off. My legs pumped, fueled by alcohol and adrenaline. The long, yellowed hallway stretched out before me, a tunnel of buzzing light. I could hear the slap of other sneakers on the linoleum, but I tuned it all out. My focus was on the back of Kaz's stupid Letterman jacket, just a few feet ahead. I was gaining on him. I could feel the victory, taste it. We were in the final stretch, the last 500 feet through Gamma Tower. I pushed harder, my lungs on fire, and pulled up alongside him. I saw his face turn, saw the flash of panic in his eyes. And then his shoulder checked me. It wasn't hard, just a little nudge, an accident. But at that speed, it was enough. My legs tangled. The world tilted sideways, and I met the floor with a sickening crack. A collective gasp echoed from the group of onlookers at the finish line. Kaz didn't even look back. He just stumbled, corrected, and sprinted the last few feet. I just lay there, the rough linoleum scraping my cheek, my knees screaming in protest. Humiliation washed over me, cold and bitter. I was so close. I stared up at the buzzing fluorescent lights, watching them flicker. And then they went out. 3 minutes. The hallway plunged into a darkness so complete it felt like a physical weight. I sat up, rubbing my head. The cheering from the finish line was gone. The silence was absolute. "All right, very funny," I called out into the black. "Kaz, you prick. Turn the lights on." Nothing. Not even an echo. The air was still and dead. A chill that had nothing to do with the night air snaked up my spine. "Hello? Anyone?" I fumbled for the wall to pull myself up. My fingers brushed against a surface that was unnervingly smooth, cool, and seamless like polished glass. Not the cracked, graffiti-scarred plaster I had just slammed into. I dug my phone from my pocket, my thumb shaking as I swiped for the flashlight. A weak beam cut through the darkness, and my stomach dropped. The hallway was the same, but the doors were gone. Both sides were just endless, unbroken walls of that strange, black, reflective material. My phone's light didn't travel more than a few feet before it was just swallowed by the oppressive gloom. No signal. Of course. "What the hell is this?" I whispered, my voice sounding small and thin. "Is this a joke?" The alcohol had vanished, replaced by a sharp, metallic tang of fear. I started limping in the direction I'd been running, one hand on the slick wall, my phone held out like a talisman. The walls offered no purchase, no light switch, no fire alarm, nothing. Just that unnerving smoothness. My leg throbbed with every step. "Is anyone there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. A moment of silence. Then, from far behind me, from the direction I'd come, a voice drifted through the dark. "Is anyone there?" It was my voice. Exactly. An echo, maybe. But it felt wrong. It wasn't distorted, just delayed. And it felt mocking. I decided to ignore it. The finish line couldn't be that far. I just had to keep moving forward. The darkness here was wrong. It was thick, heavy, like wading through ink. My phone's beam seemed to be getting weaker, not because of the battery, but because the darkness was actively smothering it. Then I heard it, a low, rhythmic tremor. At first I thought it was in my head, a pulse beating in my ears, but I could feel it through the soles of my shoes. A deep, resonant thudding. It was getting closer. It sounded less like footsteps and more like a colossal drum beating a slow, steady march. I froze, straining my eyes against the black. The thudding grew louder, vibrating up through my bones. The floor was trembling. Something moved in the inky blackness just beyond my light. It was huge, a shape, a silhouette, so vast it filled the entire corridor from floor to ceiling, wall to wall. I couldn't make out any features, just a solid mass of absolute black, moving with a terrifying, inexorable purpose. I didn't think, I just ran. My injured knee screamed, but I ignored it. Behind me, the thudding changed. It was no longer a slow march, but a chaotic, thundering stampede. It didn't sound like 2 feet. It sounded like 100, all pounding the floor in a desperate, frantic rhythm. The hallway never changed. It was an endless, featureless tunnel. And the thing behind me was gaining. I could feel a strange pressure building in the air, a deep hum that resonated in my chest. My leg finally gave out. I collapsed in a heap, my phone skittering across the floor a few feet away, its beam pointing uselessly at the ceiling. I scrambled into a ball, covering my head with my arms, bracing for the impact. And the thundering stopped. Just like that, it vanished. The crushing silence returned, heavier than before. I crawled to my phone, my fingers closing around it like it was the only real thing in the universe. When I finally got back on my feet, heart hammering against my ribs, I saw the hallway had changed again. Doors. On both sides, stretching into the darkness as far as my weak light could penetrate, were hundreds of identical, plain wooden doors. Hope, sharp and painful, flared in my chest. I scrambled to the nearest one and twisted the knob. Locked. I threw my shoulder against it. It didn't budge. It felt like hitting solid concrete. I tried the next one. Same thing. And the next and the next. Each door was a lie, a facade sealed shut with something ancient and immovable. I was trapped. I leaned against the wall, sliding to the floor, my breath coming in ragged sobs. What was this place? But I learned something. When I stopped moving, the place was static. When I ran, it changed. So, with no other choice, I pushed myself up and started walking again, deeper into the dark. I didn't try the doors anymore. I just kept moving, my light cutting a pathetic little circle in the abyss ahead. And then I saw them. A pair of legs. I flinched back. A man was sitting on the floor, huddled against the wall, his face in his hands. His hair was long, white, and tangled. His clothes were shredded rags. He looked like a ghost. I didn't want to know. My horror movie instinct screamed at me to give him a wide berth, to just sneak past. As I drew level with him, his head snapped up. He was a nightmare. His skin was like old parchment stretched over a skull. His eyes were milky, clouded over with cataracts, and his mouth was a black, toothless hole. He let out a dry, rattling shriek and lunged for me, his bony fingers like claws. I shoved him back, disgusted by the dry, papery feel of his skin. He screamed the whole time, a stream of garbled, meaningless syllables that scraped at my ears. He hit the opposite wall with a dull thud, but seemed not to feel it. He just scrambled back to his feet and bolted, disappearing into the darkness with his terrible shrieks echoing behind him. I stood there gasping, the reek of dust and decay clinging to me. My phone's clock said I'd been in here for 4 hours. The battery was at 18. I cursed myself for not charging it. The despair was starting to set in, a gnawing paranoia that I was being watched, that something was pacing me just outside the light, and then the real horror began. Up ahead, another figure was slumped against a door. I saw their bony legs first. As I got closer, the smell hit me. Rot, sweet and cloying. It was a corpse, desiccated and drawn, looking like it had been there for 100 years. I hurried past, my stomach churning. But then there was another, and another. The hallway had become a tomb. Bodies lined the walls, some ancient and skeletal, others looked disturbingly fresh. Each one was frozen in a final, desperate act. One clutched a doorknob. Another was on its knees, head pressed against the wall. I covered my nose and mouth with my shirt, weaving through the grisly gallery. I had to keep moving. Stopping felt like dying. I passed the body of a young girl, no older than me, her face a mask of terror. And then I saw it. Far, far down the corridor, a single point of light. A tiny star in the suffocating black. Hope surged through me again, hot and fierce. I started jogging, then running, my injured leg a dull, forgotten ache. It was an exit. It had to be. The bodies were thinning out now, another sign I was going the right way. The light grew closer, brighter. I didn't see the large man's body sprawled across the path until I was right on top of it. I tripped, going down hard on my hands and knees. As I looked up from the floor, staring at the light, I realized something was wrong. It was swaying, gently, back and forth. It was moving. It was coming for me. A foul breeze washed over me, a stench so vile it made the rotting corpses seem fragrant. It was the smell of a slaughterhouse left to fester in the sun. I scrambled back to my feet, my legs trembling uncontrollably. The light was almost on me, and then I saw what carried it. It was a crawling, rolling avalanche of human remains. A living carpet of fused bodies, limbs, and torsos slithering down the hallway. Arms reached out from the mass, hands clawed the floor, pulling the grotesque engine forward. Dozens of faces, mouths open in silent screams, were pressed against each other, their eyes wide with eternal horror. From the front of the churning pile, a single skeletal arm emerged, holding an old-fashioned lantern aloft, its golden light a hypnotic, deadly lure. I turned and ran for my life. I didn't look back. I just ran, stumbling over the dead, crashing into walls. The thing behind me was gaining, a wet, sloppy, churning sound echoing in the narrow hall, the stench of it clinging to my skin. Then, up ahead, I saw it. A door, just one, and it was glowing. A soft, warm light seeped from the cracks around its frame. It was my only chance. The creature was right behind me. I could feel a coldness on the back of my neck, the collective chill of 1,000 stolen lives. I reached the door, threw my weight against it. It swung open. I dove through without a second thought. I woke up with a scream, sprawled on the cold linoleum of the third-floor hallway. The normal hallway. The fluorescent lights were buzzing overhead, painfully bright. A crowd of my friends were standing around, staring down at me, their faces a mixture of confusion and concern. Kaz was the first to rush to my side. "Ori? Hey man, you okay?" We turned the lights back on. "What?" I flinched away from his touch, scrambling backward. Where the hell was I? What was that place? "Dude, what are you talking about?" Kaz said, his brow furrowed. The lights went out. And then they came back on. You were out for like a second. Not even a second had passed. It hadn't been hours. It was impossible. I'm never doing a dorm challenge again. I'm not sure I'm ever sleeping again. Kaz held me up, grabbing my arm to steady me. As my sleeve slid up, we both froze. There, on my bicep, was a dark, ugly bruise. It wasn't from the fall. It was a perfect, multi-fingered handprint, the impression of dozens of fingers all overlapping, all grasping for the same piece of flesh.